So the question 7, right? They start off with telling you prime number. 13, you were finding like how come they want to tell me about this, right? So they just don't want to assume that people understand what is prime number. So they explain the definition of prime number. And then for me, right, when I start doing this, right, I actually list out the prime numbers in my head first. And when I see that this is a quadratic expression, my idea is I should factorize it. Okay, after factorize it, right, you must bear in mind, the whole thing must be a prime number, not each of the bracket be prime number. So each of the bracket no need to be prime number. The final whole thing must be a prime number. So how are you going to do that, right? You set each of, so to me, I set each of them to 1. So this one can be equal to 1. Because that's the definition of prime number. You must have 1 and itself. So that's the reason why I gotten n equal to 13 as my answer. And you could have checked out this one. You could have checked out this to make sure that you also get a prime number in the end. So you could have checked out this one, punch in and make sure that you got a prime number. So I got 11. Okay, another one will be, what if, right, I use n is equal to 1. Okay, I put in n equal to 1. I also get 11. So I think some of you, like I think Glenn, you got the misconception that you want, I think Glenn, you did it by trial and error, right? So one of them works and one of them doesn't work. So you should choose the n that make the whole expression a prime number. So not each of the bracket must be prime number. So that's the general confusion for this question. So the reason why they start you off with the definition is to remind you so that you can make use of this factor 1. Okay, so that is the idea behind question 7. Okay, so I will be going on to question 13 first, then later on I'll backtrack to question 8. So maybe later on question 8, Janelle, you send me your question 8. Some of you got question 8 wrong. I think Shane was a bit careless. Okay, so I think if you miss out one element, right, you will be wrong. And I think some of you may miss out the tiny apostrophe there, which is the A prime. So do check it out. Okay, so later on, Janelle, I'll check question 8 for you. So we go on to question 13 first. Question 13, right, is the one on power function. So that's why in the group chat, do you realize I sent in something in the group chat? I sent in this one. So this is the one that you got to memorize before you go for your EMF exam. So these are the variety of graph. So just now I was scribbling this. So you got to remember the reciprocal graph, the exponential graph, the quadratic graph, cubic graph. So this is being tested in question 13. So question 13 is testing you on this. So you got to look at the description first. So in this question, right, it is the volume of a sphere and the radius is x. So you got to make use of the volume of a sphere. You make use of the volume of the sphere, and then you realize that that's a cubic function. So you should, this is the constant, and this is the cubic function. So if you refer to the summary, it should be something like this. But do you realize in my situation, I dotted out the negative part. I dotted out the negative part because it's not valid. X is the radius. So this part is not valid because my radius cannot be negative. That means supposedly the cubic function should be like this. But in my context, the negative part is not valid. So I kind of dotted it out. It's okay if you don't want to dot it out. You can just show the answer like this. You can just show the answer like this, also can. Okay, so that is the cubic function being tested. Second part is the speed, distance, and time. So you should formulate out the speed formula and put in the speed here. The distance is a constant. The time is x. So can you see, I wrote down the speed formula. I replaced each of the item with whatever that they told me. So this one is the exponential function. Sorry. This one is the reciprocal. So this is the one that is under reciprocal. And the power is -1. Okay, so if you look under the summary, it's supposed to be like this. Again, why I dot this part, right? Because in my context, x is not valid for negative. So again, you can choose not to put a dotted line. You can just choose to show the shape. Okay, so this is under the function and graph. Okay, then the next one is on exponential graph. Because the direction is this way, I'm expecting the power to be negative. So you can choose any value of n. So you can choose a -2, you can choose a -1, as long as it gave you a negative power. Okay, and the value of a, it has to be a certain condition. So some of you, I mark you wrong. Okay, if you refer to the summary, there's a condition, a must be greater than 1. So I think I remember one of you chose a equal to 1. I cannot remember who is the person. So if you choose a equal to 1, you actually get penalized because the condition is a has to be greater than 1. So you can choose any value. Even if you want to choose 1.5 also can, doesn't matter. But as long as it's a greater than 1. So you can choose 2, you can choose 3. So this whole question 13, right, fall under the part of power function. So the summary is inside the group chat for you to refer.